The diplomatic quarters aboard Station Meridian were designed for comfort, not chaos. Yet chaos had found its way into Kalen's assigned living space in the form of Ambassador Thexer's youngest cub, Vash. Kalen had been reviewing trade protocols when the distressed chirping began. The sound was high-pitched and repetitive, coming from somewhere near the seating area. He set down his data pad and listened. The chirping grew more urgent, tinged with what could only be described as frustration. "Hello," Kalen called out, moving toward the sound. The chirping intensified. It was definitely coming from beneath the low couch that the station designers had installed. Kalen knelt down and peered into the shadowy gap between the furniture and the floor. Two large, luminous eyes stared back at him from the darkness. "Oh no," Kalen muttered. "How did you get under there, little one?" Vash responded with a series of distressed squeaks. The cub was small, barely the size of a house cat, with sleek silver fur and oversized ears that drooped with unhappiness. The Thexeri were a proud species, known throughout the galaxy for their diplomatic prowess and strategic thinking. Their young, however, were notoriously curious and prone to getting into impossible situations. Kalen lay flat on the floor, extending his hand toward the trapped cub. "Come on out. It's okay." Vash pressed himself further back against the wall, his eyes wide with fear. The chirping became almost frantic. "Right?" Kalen said, pulling his hand back. "You're scared. I understand." He sat up and examined the situation. The couch was a standard diplomatic model, designed to accommodate various species. It was heavy, constructed from compressed alloy foam, and covered in synthetic fabric. The gap beneath it was perhaps 4 inches high, enough for a small cub to squeeze into, but apparently not enough to get back out easily. Kalen could call maintenance. They would have equipment designed for such situations, but that would mean strangers, loud noises, and unfamiliar scents. The cub was already terrified. He looked at the couch again, then at his own hands. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. The Korthax could lift 3 times what he could. The Dramini possessed enhanced musculature that made them natural laborers. But Kalen was not trying to impress anyone with strength. He was just trying to help a frightened child. "All right, Vash," Kalen said softly. "I'm going to move this couch. It might be loud, but I promise you'll be safe." The cub's chirping quieted slightly, as if listening. Kalen positioned himself at one end of the couch. He bent his knees, kept his back straight, and gripped the furniture firmly. The proper lifting technique his father had taught him when he was young. The couch was heavier than he expected, but not impossibly so. He lifted. The furniture rose slowly, inch by inch. Kalen's arms trembled with the effort, his muscles burning as he raised the couch high enough to clear the cub. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Go on," he grunted, holding the position. "Get out of there." Vash remained frozen, staring up at the strange human who was holding an entire piece of furniture above his head. "Please," Kalen managed, his voice strained. "Move." The cub seemed to understand the urgency in his tone. Vash darted forward, his small paws scrabbling on the smooth floor as he escaped from his prison. Once clear, he scrambled across the room and huddled against the far wall, watching with wide eyes. Kalen carefully lowered the couch back into place, his arms shaking with relief. He sat down heavily on the floor, breathing hard. "That was heavier than it looked," he said to no one in particular. Vash chirped softly, a questioning sound. Kalen turned to look at the cub. "Are you hurt?" The small creature tilted his head, then slowly approached. His movements were cautious, testing. When Kalen remained still, Vash crept closer, sniffing at the human's outstretched hand. "I'm sorry you were scared," Kalen said gently. "But you're safe now." Vash's ears perked up. He made a soft, trilling sound, quite different from the distressed chirping of before. Then, to Kalen's surprise, the cub climbed into his lap and curled up, his tiny body vibrating with a purr-like rumble. Kalen carefully placed his hand on the cub's back, feeling the rapid heartbeat beginning to slow. "Your parent is going to be so worried about you." As if summoned by the words, the door chimed. Kalen activated the release, and Ambassador Thexer rushed in. His silver fur bristled with anxiety. "Vash," the ambassador's translator rendered his relieved cry. I turned away for one moment, and he was gone. I've been searching the entire diplomatic wing. He got stuck under the couch, Kalen explained, carefully lifting the sleeping cub. "He's fine, just scared." Thexer approached and gently took his son, examining him for injuries. Finding none, the ambassador's tension visibly eased. His large eyes met Kalen's, and there was something profound in that gaze. "You move the couch," Thexer said quietly. "I know how heavy those are. Most species would have called for assistance." Kalen shrugged. He was scared. "I didn't want to make it worse with a lot of strangers and equipment. It seemed faster to just help." "Faster," Thexer repeated, as if tasting the word. "Not easier. Not safer for you. But faster for him." "Well, yes." The ambassador held his sleeping son close. "We Thexeri pride ourselves on logic and strategic thinking. We calculate the most efficient solution to every problem. But sometimes," he looked down at Vash, then back at Kalen, "sometimes the most efficient solution is not the kindest one. Thank you for choosing kindness." After they left, Kalen returned to his trade protocols. But he found himself smiling, remembering the weight of the couch, the trembling in his arms, and the feel of a tiny, trusting cub curling up in his lap. Strength, he thought, was not always about how much you could lift. Sometimes it was about why you chose to lift it at all.